Hello, and welcome to Accelerating Your AI Journey. I'm your host, Alexa Carlin, and today we're talking about AI factories and hybrid AI platforms, specifically how organizations can implement these models most efficiently and shorten the time to value. Joining me today are Anthony Larijani, Senior Product Marketing Manager at NVIDIA, and Robert Daigle, Global AI Lead for Lenovo Infrastructure Solutions Group. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So first off, tell us a little bit about yourselves and what inspires you to work with emerging technologies.
Sure. So thanks again. And again, I'm Anthony Larijani, part of NVIDIA's enterprise platform product marketing team, and also support the Lenovo relationship directly. One of the most exciting things I think that AI is bringing to the enterprise, and why I'm particularly excited, is the pace of innovation. We're seeing this fundamental shift in how businesses operate today, and it's a really exciting time to be a part of that.
Definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, and I second that. It's really exciting to see how much has changed over the past few years. I actually got started in AI about a decade ago.
A decade ago.
Okay. And it's back when we were like, do we call this AI or is it just machine learning? And so it's been a really fun journey. I started out working for a small startup, and as you can imagine, in small startups, you get handed a lot of different tasks. And so we were building out a data science team to work on a new technology, and I got tasked with building out that team. And so I just jumped in and started doing a lot of self-learning and dug into this space, and that's where I really got passionate about. At the core of it, it's about making data-driven decisions. That's what the core of it is, and AI is one of the technologies that can help us make better decisions in our organization and in our personal lives. And I just became really passionate about it since then, and have stuck with it. So it's been an exciting run.
Yeah, definitely exciting how fast everything's going. So the use of AI factories has been expanding across nearly every industry, but at the same time, technology is evolving so quickly. What are some of the current challenges organizations face when setting up an AI factory? Robert?
So, it is changing very rapidly. We go through these cycles of innovation with artificial intelligence, and we're in one of these, I would call it an AI summer, where there's a lot of innovation, and it's really challenging and intimidating for a lot of organizations, where it's moving so fast that it's hard to keep up with. And so, used to an enterprise organization, they would be working with technology that's well established, it's been around for a long time, that's well proven. And now with artificial intelligence, you have something that, transformer models were only discovered back in 2017 in a research paper, and ChatGPT really popularized them in 2023. And now every organization is using large language models in some form or fashion. That is unheard of rate of innovation. And that creates new challenges. Like we just found in our recent CIO survey, we interview over 3,000 CIOs globally and release a CIO playbook. And AI, of course, is the number one priority for CIOs right now. And what's interesting is like the top challenges that they face are, moving to, business case driven objectives, which are how does this prove out some return on investment? We know AI is great and it's doing all these great things, but how do we prove value out of it? That's one of the big challenges. The other one is the skills gap. Having the skills within your organization to be able to leverage the technology. And then the third thing is having access to the right data and right infrastructure to be successful on your AI journey.
And building on top of what Robert said, really the pace of innovation and change with AI is a challenge for most enterprises. There are constantly new developments with model capabilities and software capabilities and new specialized infrastructure that's required to really take advantage of these types of workloads. Not only that, but having the in-house expertise or other constraints that an enterprise may face really prevents them from realizing ROI and taking proper advantage of the opportunities that AI presents.
So you talked about the partnership. So how are Lenovo and NVIDIA helping organizations find some clarity and navigate this process?
So really what we've done is we've taken the goodness from what NVIDIA has been investing a lot of time and energy into, which is, things like the NVIDIA AI Enterprise software platform, the technologies underpinning it, like the GPUs and the networking, and the infrastructure components, and even up into like things like the NVIDIA enterprise reference architectures, and really packaging that up into a platform that we bring together as a complete solution, and that we've tested and validated, and also incorporate services into it, because we don't want organizations have to think about how to deploy these capabilities, but we want to have it all packaged up and bundled up. One of the guys on my team, he always talks about people don't want bag of parts. They don't want a bag of parts that they have to assemble. They don't want a Lego set that they have to build, or a puzzle they have to construct. They want a holistic solution to deploy their AI capabilities on top of it. And I think that's really where the magic that we are working on together with NVIDIA.
So what makes these different than standard reference architectures?
So to start with, it starts with testing and validation that happens in a lab. These are not just something that we did a paper exercise and said, yeah, we think that'll work. We actually stand this infrastructure and the software and all the components up in our lab and actually test these workflows on our platform to say, if you're trying to deploy a RAG architecture or a large language model or an agentic AI workflow, that we've tested this whole stack, this whole infrastructure and all the components in our labs, and we can actually tell you, based off of how many users you have and what workflow you're trying to deploy, this is what you need to go be successful and do that. And then also the second part of that is that the other key component is support. That we can support this as a solution, and not, it's not just a bag of parts that people have to go assemble and then figure out how they support it.
Yeah, by themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to Robert's point too, one of the best things organizations can do to capture the most ROI possible from these projects is start down the right path from the beginning. As he mentioned, right, we've worked with Lenovo to validate from the silicon to the software a complete stack that customers can go and deploy their own AI solutions on top of. Taken a lot of the guesswork and risk out of the process and made it really less complex, enabling them to accelerate time to production for any AI use case across industries.
So talking about use case, how do these benefits apply to real world business outcomes for companies in different vertical industries?
I think across vertical industries, we've put together solutions frameworks with Lenovo focused on core use cases in AI, again, that are comprised of a full stack offering. So not only the accelerated infrastructure that NVIDIA brings, but Lenovo's platforms for accelerating data center servers and your liquid cooling solutions as well, right? So from the hardware layer, we work very closely with Lenovo to put together prescriptive guidance on how to go and deploy these solutions, but at the software layer as well. We bring our AI enterprise platform for customers to accelerate the model building and deployment of their software applications. And we've also validated a whole set of ecosystem partners across the AI lifecycle that customers can go and tap into to understand how to go and build a complete AI solution. So that applies to industries across a wide variety of industries. Robert, anything else?
Yeah, retail, manufacturing, healthcare, financial services. Some are more generative AI and agentic AI workflows, and then even traditional AI workloads like computer vision and others that we see industries across the spectrum deploying. Smart cities is another one that we were just recently talking about. So there's a lot of different industries. I think virtually every industry, right, is deploying some type of AI capability or some type of AI solution today.
Or will be.
If they're not today, yes, they will be very soon. Yeah.
So tell us about the Lenovo Hybrid AI Advantage with NVIDIA.
Sure. So the Lenovo Hybrid AI Advantage with NVIDIA is a framework that allows enterprises to accelerate productivity, accelerate innovation, and do it in a trusted manner with a partner like NVIDIA and Lenovo. So as we talked about, we've put together a suite of solutions offerings based upon our joint technologies that allows enterprises to go and address some of the most common use cases in AI in an efficient way that allows them to recognize ROI sooner. And that includes things like solutions for content generation for generative AI, include things like intelligent knowledge assistance, as well as for AI data orchestration use cases as well. And it's a full suite of solutions based upon the work we're jointly doing with Lenovo, from infrastructure all the way up to the software layer.
And what's really cool about that is we package those up into our hybrid AI library. So if an organization is like, hey, I need an AI solution for example, marketing content generation, we have a solution in our library that they can go select, and behind it there is a whole NIMS blueprint that's essentially like an instruction set for how to go stand this up, and all the components have already been tested and optimized on our platform. So instead of an organization, an enterprise architect in some organization have to go out and like read through a bunch of papers online, figure out which models they want to use for that workflow and which vector database and how to stitch it all together. And then after they get it all put together, then they have to optimize it because then the models aren't performing well. All that kind of stuff. We've done all that. And all of that's completely done and in a very clear, so in a matter of hours or days, you could be standing up an AI, an agentic AI or a LLM-based solution that can help solve some of your business challenges in a really intuitive way. So I think what we've built is awesome, and it really brings together the value of both of our organizations.
Definitely helps speed up the process.
Absolutely, yeah.
So tell us about the Lenovo Hybrid 285 platform.
So that's one of our core flagship platforms that we've developed, and essentially it's a flagship for enterprises that are doing any type of LLM based or agentic AI based workflows. So what we've done is, because you need some flexibility to adapt these different use cases to your organization, but you can go take any one of those NIMS blueprints that we talked about that are associated with those solutions in our libraries. You go to our library, say, that's the workflow I need. That's the business challenge I'm trying to solve. You pull down the NIMS blueprint, and that will run on our Hybrid 285 platform. No matter what type of organization you are, what your use case is, it's validated and tested on that platform, and it allows a scalable way for organizations to start small. They can start with a single GPU system, GPU-based server, and then they can scale up as needed. And it uses a lot of modular building blocks. So you can kind of plug and play. If you have a certain preference for, say, your networking or your storage, you have some optionality to kind of plug and play, but it's still using standard tested and validated building blocks. So, you're not creating some type of, science project, that's something we've tested and validated.
So what are some of the most exciting applications that you've seen in which organizations have leveraged hybrid AI platforms and AI factories?
Sure. So I think some of the most exciting applications I've seen come around the theme of customer service, right? So whether it's retail or it's something like a restaurant, right? Seeing customers who embrace new technologies built on NVIDIA's platforms and with the Lenovo Hybrid AI Solutions with NVIDIA, really gear around improving that customer experience and improving retention. And the solutions themselves have been really innovative. We've seen things built like digital avatars to handle things like customer ordering or customer service via interactions that occur online or over the phone. And what we've seen is a lot of adoption in that particular industry. But I know Robert has tons of examples he's seen directly, particularly with some of the smart spaces and smart cities as well.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like we've seen deployments across, we talked about some of the industries earlier, retail, manufacturing, smart cities, smart spaces. I'll give one example that's really close to the retail one, but in hospitality. We did a project recently for F1 to deploy a digital avatar for fan experience in the paddock clubs, that you could walk up to it and it's very conversational. You could ask it questions about the event, about the race, or different details, and it could give you a response, and it's from an avatar, essentially like a digital concierge, which is really cool. And then other examples, like, and some people would kind of look at some of these examples and say, well, we're a small organization. We don't have a lot of resources. What do you have for us? We just did a project for a small municipality in a very rural area, and they were standing up basically an AI agent to help with their internal staff, with their city services, their county and city services. So, the staff could ask it questions instead of having to go out and do their own research and kind of dig up information on different, zoning rules and stuff like that. that requires a lot of time and energy from them, they could actually just use this chat bot to be able to ask it questions and provide a response. And so it's really designed that is scalable for organizations of all sizes, from very small to some of the largest organizations in the world.
So I'm sure you've inspired some ideas for everyone watching this right now. I know I'm thinking about all the different ways you can use it. So when an organization's ready to go, like what do they need to get started with hybrid AI solutions? What would be the first step?
So really the first step to getting started on this journey is we sit down and do a discover workshop with you to really understand what are your biggest business challenges. The worst thing that we can do is come in and just recommend a bunch of technology for the sake of it. So tell you have to use LLMs without telling you what you're going to do with that. Telling you to use generative AI without really giving you some tangible things that you can really embed into your organization and see a return on investment or see some benefit to your organization. So it really starts with unpacking those use cases that you can apply within your organization. So we do that through a Discover workshop. And then we're prescriptive about the technology, about this is the platform you need. This is the solution that you need that's going to help you solve that challenge within your organization. And so I think that's really the starting point. And from then, we try to move through this process very, quickly because people want to see a fast time to value. I think the situation where, organizations would spend, months to years doing proof of concept and proof of value, I think those days are over because technology, as we talked about before, is just moving way too rapidly, especially in this space. So we have fast start POCs that we can do rapid proof of concept, proof of value based off of those use cases that we define, and prove them out and prove that they will actually meet your requirements and help you achieve your return on investment expectations. And if they don't, let's stop. Let's not waste your time. Let's not waste our time. But then we can move through that process, and then moving into deployment and to scale out these solutions. We have managed services and as a service models to deploy these capabilities, so we can bundle everything together, all the software solution services into one as a service model to help organizations really, get started very, very quickly.
So one final question for the both of you. What makes the partnership between Lenovo and NVIDIA unique?
Sure. I think marrying NVIDIA's AI expertise with the rich history that Lenovo has in infrastructure and solution building really provides a compelling value proposition for enterprises. Particularly Lenovo Hybrid AI Advantage with NVIDIA is one of the best pathways that I've seen for customers to immediately get up and running with AI and begin to kind of capture that value. And as Robert highlighted, there's a tremendous number of examples that we've seen where this has the opportunity to really transform how they go to market, how they conduct their business. I think it's one of the most unique relationships that we have at NVIDIA.
Yeah. That's awesome. Right? What a great endorsement. And I'll add to that. I think one of the things too that we've done, like NVIDIA's doing a lot of really amazing work on everything from model development to optimization to putting together these blueprints to make it very easy for organizations to get started. Our mission is to capture that goodness and package it up with Lenovo technology. And I think one of the things that we've done too is, we have very kind of deep engineering engagements together where we're partnering. We try to handle a lot of the hard stuff, a lot of the complexity, so our customers don't have to. And so we have a long history of doing really deep engagements from a technical perspective, so we can bring the best of breed solutions to market. And NVIDIA being the leader in the market, it's been a great partnership for us.
Sounds like it. Well, this conversation has been very informative. Thank you both for taking the time.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. So I'd like to thank my guests, Anthony Larijani, Senior Product Marketing Manager at NVIDIA, and Robert Daigle, Global AI Lead for Lenovo Infrastructure Solutions Group, for stopping by and talking with us today. And thank you for watching. Visit us online to learn more about how Lenovo can help you accelerate your AI journey on the road to smarter AI for all.